The Bank of Canada surprised many experts on Thursday by choosing the man in the middle as their new governor.
Stephen brings substantial business experience to the table through his work at Export Development Canada. Stephen has demonstrated substantial leadership skills and the ability to inspire a large and diverse organization. He is an excellent choice to lead the Bank of Canada into the future.
Oshawa native Stephen Poloz is a relatively unknown man, one that many didn't see as the frontrunner. But Bank of Canada board members say otherwise.
We are confident that Mr. Poloz will make an outstanding contribution to the bank, to the work of the bank, and uphold its reputation as a leading central bank.
It's the third time in a row the bank's senior deputy governor has been overlooked for the job. Outgoing Governor Mark Carney offered his congratulations to Poloz at a press conference on Thursday.
They have done an excellent job in selecting an outstanding leader to run this important institution.
It is both an honor and a privilege to have been chosen as the 9th governor of the Bank of Canada. I'm looking forward very much to returning to the bank and working alongside the distinguished members of the Governing Council and the institution's first-rate staff.
Poloz, the current head of Export Development Canada, takes the bank's reins from Carney on June 3rd. He will serve for 7 years. Canada's search and rescue system got a boost from the federal government Thursday, just days after Canada's Auditor General released a scathing report.
The government considers search and rescue to be a key frontline priority for the government and for Canadians.
Defence Minister Peter MacKay announced the government's plan to launch several new initiatives aimed at revamping Canada's search and rescue program.
I'm committing to the first comprehensive quadrennial search and rescue review, empowering local commanders to maximize the flexibility of their 30-minute search and rescue response time, investing $16.2 million towards a new mid-Earth orbit search and rescue satellite.
The plan also allows for more flexible hours for rescue crews during peak season. The Auditor General's spring report released on Tuesday said the country's search and rescue system is in distress. The government, he says, needs a plan.
There is no overall framework, no overall strategy related to search and rescue, and there have been many times when that's been called for, to have that overall plan for how search and rescue is going to operate.
Canada will not be seeking a seat on the UN Security Council next year, announced Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird on Tuesday. The controversial decision made the rounds in question period, with opposition leaders calling the decision irresponsible.
Does he want to be known as the minister who just gave up on Canada's most important tool to influence global affairs? Is that what he's saying? Give up? Quit?
But former diplomat Bob Fowler agrees with Baird. He says campaigning for the seat would have been suicide.
So it's not just it would be against tradition and it would be tactically unwise to present our candidacy, and it would be all of those things. It would be substantively, I would argue, suicidal.
Fowler says Canada typically wins a seat on the Security Council every 10 years. Last year, Canada lost its bid for a temporary 2-year seat to Portugal.
We lost to countries that are longtime allies like Portugal and Germany, who wanted nothing to do with the Canada that Stephen Harper and John Baird are projecting onto the world stage.
I'm here now with Michelle Zilio, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about Canada not seeking a seat on the UN Security Council in 2014. So John Baird made this announcement in a committee meeting on Tuesday. What's been the reaction?
Well, the NDP and the Liberals have kind of made the same reaction. They are saying that this is going along with the Conservative government's pattern to move away from UN organizations and other multilateral international organizations. They're saying that this is going to tarnish Canada's international reputation as a country that defends human rights. And obviously the recent withdrawal, Canada's recent withdrawal from the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, what also came up during these discussions. So, for NDP Foreign Affairs critic Paul Doerr, this was a very sensitive issue, and he had some serious questions for John Baird.
Now, I understand that you talked to former diplomat Robert Fowler just a couple days ago, and he actually agreed with John Baird. So tell me a little bit more about what he had to say about this issue.
First of all, I was pretty surprised to hear Bob Fowler say that he was in support of Minister Baird. Over the past few months, especially when it comes to the conflict in Mali, he's been highly critical of Canada's position and the minister himself. So what Mr. Fowler explained to me, and he's a seasoned diplomat that worked as a Canada's ambassador to the UN from 1995 to 2000, was that Minister Baird's decision makes sense. And from a mechanical point of view, it makes sense, he said. And the way to explain this is that within the United Nations itself, there are 15 seats available on the Security Council. 5 of them go to permanent members, the UK, the US, France, Russia, and China. The other 10 are non-permanent seats available to other regional group members. And those seats are elected from 5 regional groups. One of those groups is the Western European and Others group, of which Canada is a part of. And what Mr. Fowler explained to me was it's not that simple. Within the WEOG group itself, there's a lot of politics and a lot of competition. So, within the WEOG group, there's the Western European group, and then the Others group also has another name known as CANS. And that stands for Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And what he explained to me was that Australia currently holds one of the CAN seats, and this isn't a designated seat, but it's kind of just a known rule, one of the WEOG seats, and that New Zealand will most likely get the next seat because it is bidding for the 2015-2016 seat.
Right.
And then Canada, if it were to take another seat following New Zealand, as the opposition parties are essentially calling for, it would be too much pressure and not enough breathing room for the other 30-odd European countries who are part of the WEOG group. So he said, this makes sense from Minister Baird's perspective to share these seats amongst the European countries. Technically speaking, we could go ahead and bid for this year when the vote is made in 2014. When the vote is made for the 2014 seat this fall. And we could even go for the following seat after New Zealand gets it, most likely, but it would just be too much pressure on the system.
So it just need time. And Canada did apply for it a couple of years ago, but we actually lost out to Portugal, so you never know if they would actually win the next seat. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to this issue in the coming weeks, and as you said, we'll find out in the fall who decides to actually bid for the seat and who gets it.
Exactly.
So thanks so much, Michelle, for joining us, and we'll see everyone next week.